Good morning, business builders. Welcome to Business for Breakfast, where business is the most important meal of the day. I'm your host, Aaron Novinger. Our goal in this show is to make you 1% smarter today by unpacking business news over the last 24 hours, sprinkled with tips and tricks to help you mind your own business. Now, I know why you're all here. You guys love joining in first thing in the morning for the morning mark. And I know, to be honest with you, I do this for me. Okay, so the morning mark, to be honest with you, is for me. Okay, so, but I figure if it's for me, it's got to be for you too. Here we go. The morning mark. I know why you're here. You're here for the morning mark. No props required, no drinks, no gear. Just you and a functioning brain. We'll work with what we've got. Wherever you are, desk, truck, kitchen, job site, standing or sitting, it does not matter. You pick one thing you will finish today, not 10, not a list, one. Now, mark it mentally and write it down. That's the line in the sand. That's the thing the day doesn't get to erase. This is the pause that sharpens the edge, the moment that turns noise into signal, the tiny act that makes business owners dangerous in a good way. That, my friends, is the morning mark. Mark it. Your day is officially started. Let's dive in, shall we? Ho, ho. I don't know why, man. The morning mark sets my entire day. I don't know. Does it do it for you too? You'll see the entire day, I just hum on energy from this show. And honestly, that's the reason why I do it. I do this for me, but I'm a career mom and pop Venti owner. And so I don't know. I kind of figured if I need this first thing in the morning to make sure that the world doesn't beat me up, then I kind of figure we all need it, right? So that is the purpose of today. So let's dive in, shall we, with today's briefing of juicy news. We got some juicy news. Juicy news. Juicy news. Here we go. Top stories for mom and pop Venti shops. And this is the latest coming at you January 16th, 2026. What do we have in the news? Let's talk about it, shall we? Oh, okay. We brought this up yesterday, but we've got a 48-hour deadline. So here's the story. The new SBA regulations taking effect on January 17th, which you guys know is tomorrow, will change disqualifying recertification. If a small business with government contracts is sold to a non-small entity, the buyer will no longer be able to exercise option years on most contracts. Okay. And we talked about this yesterday. Why is this a big deal? If you are a small business and the majority of your work, revenue comes from government contracts, here's what this means for you. You must diversify immediately with other streams of income, because oftentimes when a small business has a lot of federal contracts, big businesses love to snatch them up, put them under their portfolio of companies, and now they get to inherit those contracts. But this is changing tomorrow, right? So the 17th, tomorrow, that no longer goes into play. What does that mean for us? If you are a small business and you plan on selling, you've got to diversify, or you just shrunk your buying pool. And here's the dealio. I'm assuming if you have federal contracts, you got a pretty decent valuation on your business. So if we want to make sure that we can get the valuation you think that you deserve for your business, and you probably do, then it's darn important that we do a couple things. Number one, diversify, right? And number two, make sure you're engineering your business for an acquisition. And by the way, this is actually a good rule of business. I know a lot of business owners don't actually plan on selling their business, but I'm telling you something right here. This book right here called E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. I've read hundreds and hundreds of business books, and that is in my top 3. Okay, so right here, this beautiful book right here. But it's because Michael Gerber specifically talks about all the different business systems that are out there, and he specifically harnesses on the most successful business model that we've seen, and that's the franchise business model, and uses McDonald's as his case study. Now, the reason why this is important is because he talks about creating systems and processes, meaning even if you're a location of one, you need to systematize your business, meaning you need to create those, what do we call them? SOPs, right? Standard operating procedures, how you want to run your business, right? Remember that the purpose of today's show is helping you mind your own business. That's what we do on Business for Breakfast every day, right? So this is about helping you mind your own business. So one of the best things that you can do is, and again, you guys know we focus on 1% improvement daily. So this is not a, go all or nothing. It's slight adjustments, which compounded over the course of days, months, weeks, years, decades, you understand is massive compounding growth and change. So here's kind of a basic rule of thumb for you. If you do something more than 5 times, write that process down. If what you do has more than 5 steps, write that process down. And here's another big rule. Done well is better than perfect. Done well is better than perfect. The saying is typically done is better than perfect. And I don't agree with that. I've seen a lot of done stuff that showed up on its deadline that I said, send back. So it's got to be done well, but not perfect. Okay. We know Mark Cuban talks about this often, that perfection is the enemy of profit, right? So we've got to focus on getting it done pretty good. And then we're already working on version 2.0 and 3.0 by the time your competition is launching version 1.0. You get it, right? Remember, we talk about this every day. Planning plus execution equals success. I'm writing it out. I'm doing this cursive in my hand right now. Okay, so planning, right, plus execution equals success. You see that? Right? Write it down. All right. What else is in the news today? Ooh, the latest NFIB survey shows this word kills me. Optimism rose 0.5%. So we're at 99.5%. Okay. But even though the majority of our business owners, and you have to understand the reason why the overall call it the fear index of business owners, because that's really what it is. If we're feeling that we have a lot of faith in where the economy is going, then we're really optimistic, right? But if we have a lot of fear of what we're sensing, and here, I just need you to understand something. You guys know that this is a politics-free show. We don't talk about left or right, and we don't talk about red or blue. So, but we do talk often about how we, as mom and pop Venti shops, actually are affected by administrations. So we don't talk about whether we agree or disagree. We're just talking about how it's affecting us. And that still can be positive and negative, meaning you could be leaning one direction, but the administration is doing something that actually is positive for you. Both things can be true. You can be team play, but also feel that whatever's going on in the economy is good for you. You get it? Okay. So the fact that mom and pop Venti shops are feeling a 99.5% optimism score, this is off the charts. This means we are ready to go to war, right? Not physical war, but business war. We're feeling good. We're not feeling beat down. Every single time we hear about tax breaks, new tax extensions, we're going to get bigger refunds as a business owner. And I'm specifically talking mom and pop Venti shops. We are historically the least profitable entities because we don't have economies of scale. So every micro adjustment when it comes to taxation affects us in a compounded fashion compared to any other business that's not small, right? And small business, by the way, is 0 to 500 employees. So I think you guys have a good understanding that a business that has 0 employees, meaning you're self-employed, is not the same thing as a business that has 5 employees, okay? And I think you guys understand that a business that has 5 employees is not the same business that has 50 employees. And I think you guys understand that a business that has 50 employees is not even remotely close to a business that has 500 employees. But the SBA says they are all small business. Okay, cool. You and I both know that the amount of employees we have compared to 500 ain't the same business. Okay. And to us, that's not small. You get what I'm saying? What else is going on in the news? We brought this up yesterday, but I want to kind of talk about it again because I think it is huge for us as small business. Remember, the only way that we're going to be able to compete because with big business, right, is by doing the best job we can with the resources we have on actually mirroring Big Co's benefits. You get that, right? So anytime deductions or tax breaks happens for small business, we celebrate that. Okay, so small businesses now can claim a 50% credit for providing subsidizing employee childcare. This is big. The reason why collectively as a nation we give billions and billions and billions to nonprofits and churches is why. Okay, yeah, I do agree that sometimes because we feel it's a duty of obligation. But let's be honest. If you know business, you're also asking the very first thing, if this is an entity that is doing good, are you guys not listed as a nonprofit, with the IRS? Are you guys, can I get a tax deduction? It's the first thing we ask, right? So the fact that they're literally doubling it from 25 to 50%, this is big, big news for us because that means, pop, we just got that credit, which is huge for us. Free money, right? And here on Business for Breakfast, one of our big, big rules is we do not trip over dollars to pick up pennies. What? We don't trip over dollars to pick up pennies. You guys hear me? Come on now. What else is going on? Ooh, okay. We talked about this yesterday, and you guys remember I kind of froze up because I was so shook by what I read, and it was specifically talking about a new retail incubator model has been launched in Seattle, and it's gaining nationwide attention because now it's allowing, listen to this, 6 independent shops to share one roof and one cohesive brand. Okay, so as we're doing this, I'm going to play around a little bit here. Okay, don't fall off the table, please. I'm going to literally right now, I'm going to build a business model for you. Okay. So I'm going to pull some AI while we're talking. Okay. If a business can only have 6 service-based shops in a single location, what are the 6 most popular services that should be included? You know what? I'll say the top 10. And I'll say included that every community needs. Okay, let's just see. I'm doing this with you guys. Okay, here we go. Oh my word. No way. Dude, my mind is melting. Okay, so let me tell you what it's pulling up. So this story we're just talking about is they're now making it where basically we can have almost like a mini farmers market where 6 businesses can be independent businesses but share one EIN under one business roof, but you can have 6 different ones there. So I want you to imagine, okay, don't close your eyes because I know you guys are driving to work, okay, or you're getting ready for work, so don't close your eyes. But I want you guys to imagine for 2 seconds, okay, that you pull up to a business that's known as the all-in store, whatever, okay, or you can't say the everything store because we know who that owns that thing, but something like that, okay. And every time you go to this strip, the center, it has the same exact businesses, okay. So just imagine businesses, okay. So just kind of, go with me here, kind of do some dreaming with me. You walk in and it gets just dropped in a community. In this one business, we've got a healthcare clinic, a pharmacy, childcare, auto service, personal care, okay, and then financial admin services. I'm not kidding. Like this is mind bending. So just imagine this. You guys are starting to see this because honestly, it's been for years and years and years where we haven't needed a village to raise a family. We haven't needed a village to raise, a child, but we're going back to that. So the reason why I love this is because we were made to be in community with other individuals, which is why we're dealing with a loneliness catastrophe that we've never seen before. Even though we're the most connected individuals, but we're not friends with our neighbors. Like our neighbors, we don't know them, but we've got like thousands of friends on social media that give us like little dopamine likes. It's like, but that stuff, you gotta understand something, man. The world, you have to make a choice right this minute. Okay. You get to choose every day one of two paths. And this is up to you. Okay. Are you choosing today? And I call it the two P's, right? Are you choosing the path of pleasure or the path of purpose? You get to pick this, by the way. You do. But listen to me. Pleasure is the swiping, the likes, the little dopamine hits. That's the rice cake. Are you hearing me? And that's the reason why you feel empty and you're not content, because you lost purpose. We're dealing with a purpose crisis that we have never seen, probably in human existence. Because now people have jobs and they're just obsessed with eating rice cakes. And they're like, I just don't feel anything right. Because you've got to be plugged into something bigger than yourself. Are you hearing me? You better be hearing me. Okay, so you guys know that's the purpose of today's show, man. I want you 1% smarter today. That's it. If my job is to give you guys a dozen, 2 dozen little cookies today, and your job's to grab one of them. That's it. If it's a news story, if it's something we're teaching, if it's a Scott Adams lesson or a reframe, or whatever it is, we just want you 1% smarter today. Okay. All right. What else is in the news today? All right. And by the way, let me make sure here that we are dialed in, because I have to make sure that my daily news briefing is not interfering with our live stream. I have to move it over a little bit, so forgive me. Okay. All right. What else is in the news today? I mean, there's some great stuff. Great stuff. Okay. Childcare, we already talked about it. Oh, by the way, we did talk about this yesterday, but I know not everybody was listening. But let me cover it again. And this is brand new stuff. Okay. So something that's brand spanking new for us, right, is we are now the SBA disaster loans opened up 5 new states because of drought. Okay. So you guys know 2025 was a tough year for a handful of states for fires and for drought. Okay, so we already know about California. We've known about that since day one, right? But it's just not that. So now the SBA has opened up a few more states: Missouri, Oklahoma, Washington, Idaho, Arkansas. Now, I did not know that these states were dealing with a drought, but obviously it is bad enough that the SBA is now opening these states up to being able to take advantage of these new EIDL loans, right? And they're available for small business. But the reason why they're so powerful, and if you were listening to this, because we both know that as a small business, we get railroaded on loans. We know that. This is just a fact. Like, the sun coming up tomorrow, it's just a fact, right? We get railroaded. So the reason why the SBA is always great, even though it's a pain in the rear to work with them, it's because of the 4% interest loan rate that they give you. And they give you really great terms, 10, 20, 30 years, not usually 30 years, but usually somewhere between, 10 and 20 years, they give you to kind of pay it back, which is huge, huge. Okay. And so I really want you guys to kind of really focus on that, and we're talking about helping you guys out with tax breaks. And we're really being intentional about you guys learning something new every day, right? And the one thing that I know as a small business owner that you're listening to right now is that you have to make important decisions every single day alone. And I also know that is costing you money. Okay. So one of the biggest advantages any business owner can have is being part of a peer advisory group. Okay. You have to understand this is not a networking club. It's not a mastermind social. It's a real room of business owners who help you think clearly, avoid blind spots, and make better decisions. Okay. So at our accounting firm, Interstate Business Management, you guys know that we've been in business for almost 60 years. And we run our peer advisory groups. We run new groups every month. And because they are so popular and we get so much traction, every single new client that we onboard is automatically placed into we call them PAGs, right? A peer advisory group. And it is because we, primarily I say like 80-90% of our customers are mom and pop venti shops. And so our PAGs are 6 to 8 like-minded small business owners that are in this PAG. Okay. And so their only job, we really have 3 jobs in the PAG. Okay. They're typically 12-week sessions, and you will get more done in 12 weeks than you have the last 2 years. That's how powerful these things are. You're going to get 3 things from every PAG that you join. Okay. Not just with ours, but everyone you join. 1, clarity, because you're the one that comes to the PAG with the goals that you want to accomplish over the next 12 weeks. And the team's job is to help you meet your goals, help you mind your own business. You get it? I know you're getting excited, and you should be, okay? But you're going to get clarity, you're going to get accountability, and it's going to equal probably, or the last thing would probably equals fewer costs and mistakes. It's going to save you money, okay? Because every crazy idea you have, and trust me, as business owners, we have constant crazy ideas, right? But our ideas, we need a good leadership team or executive council or PAG. You can say, hey guys, I've got this idea, and their only job is to shoot holes in it to make it look like Swiss cheese. That's their job. Show you what you're not seeing. Okay. So these groups, mind-bending, powerful, like life transformation, powerful. Okay. So if you are interested in this, a peer advisory group, or if you guys need help with accounting, bookkeeping, tax work, payroll services, business consulting, how do I start a business? How do I start my food truck business? I've got this dream, this vision. That's all we do, man. I spend half my week consulting with current owners and new customers of our accounting firm. So if you guys need any help with anything, you guys know, you guys can go directly to speakwithaaron.com, which is my direct scheduling website. It links directly to my calendar, or you can go to businessforbreakfastradio.com, submit a question. If you guys want to submit a dad joke, whatever you guys want to do, whatever you guys want to do, just do it. And by the way, thank you for myself reminding me, I did not start the show off with our dad joke. And to be honest with you, I'm a little upset by that. So here's the dad joke of the day. I'm reading a book about gravity right now. It's impossible to put down. Come on, guys. That was so unbelievably, amazingly simple that it's awesome. Okay. I'm reading a book about gravity right now. It's impossible to put that darn thing down. Yes, you guys know it's amazing. All right, back to the stinking news, shall we? Okay. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. I'm going to go ahead and bring this back up because we talked about it yesterday, but I have a feeling we're going to be talking about it a lot because you have to understand our job is to help you guys dominate your market and double your profits in a year. That's our focus. If you guys listen to the show and you guys join one of our PAGs, and by the way, our peer advisory groups, whether you're a customer of our accounting firm or you're not, it doesn't matter. And they're always free. We never want a barrier of entry to be between you and you accomplishing your goals, right? Since 1968, we've partnered with our small business owners to help them mind their own business, right? And that's all we want to do is help you mind your own business, man. This is not hard, but you need a partner. And we already are the toughest people on planet Earth. But darn it, we need a little bit of assistance here. You see what I'm saying? So the thing that I'm going to talk about, though, here's the story. Google's 2026 search update now prioritizes EEAT. We talked about this yesterday. Experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trust via local mentions from neighborhood blogs and schools. Okay, so here's why this is a big deal. If somebody is looking for your business, okay, so I'll say donut, donut store near me. Okay. Now you have to understand, near me is typically not a keyword that you can do, because unfortunately, Google basically thinks you're trying to rig the system, and it kind of penalizes you a little bit for that. So it's going to do it automatically. But Google's the one that determines on their own what is near me. And what they're saying is, if you want to rank near me, this is not even, you probably need to, down the road should. This is, you must ensure your business is mentioned in local community sites, not just your own social media. These are big stories, guys. Big stories. Okay. All right. What else is in the news today that is going to make us feel pretty darn good? Okay. I've got a couple things here. Here it is. The 20% qualified business income, which we always call QBI, deduction that was previously set to expire, listen to me, has not been extended. It's been made permanent under OBBBA, right? Every time I say what that sounds like, it always puts in the great band, right? And so I try to be intentional not to say that, because I have to go back and correct all my notes when it does it. But this is a huge thing for us, because the way this works, and it's probably a good idea to kind of help explain this. So you guys know when you're looking at your profit and loss statement, right? So at the first at the top is obviously gross revenue. And then we've got a line item, which is COGS. And then right below that is going to be our gross profit. Okay. And then gross profit. Okay. So then every line item deduction that we have, blah, blah, there's a hard line underneath that, profit, right? So that's kind of how we calculate it. So what this looks like, it's the qualified business income. Okay, so here it is. So gross revenue minus your COGS, cost of goods sold, okay? And then there's your gross profit, deductions, hard line, total, then subtract 20%. It's pretty cool, right? I knew you guys would dig it. But yeah, it's basically done, and it's put on pass-through income, So what it does is it really guarantees that the top 20% kind of passes through tax-free, and now it's indefinitely. So basically what just happened is, at the end of the year, the profit, that top 20% is now tax-free permanently. Insane. I don't even know what's happening right now, man. You want to know why business owners are the Optimism chart is at 99.5? Is because of stuff like that. And I'm not even done yet. I'm not even done, because the very next thing I want to talk about is the Credit Card Competition Act that's been reintroduced. Okay. So, but I'm going to talk about a couple things, because credit cards. So number one, and both of these stories dealing with credit cards directly affect us, mom and pop Venti shops. Okay. Because number one, we have a duopoly, like most industries that we have are duopolies. Okay. So think about it. For decades, it was Microsoft and Apple. Sodas, Coke and Pepsi. Drugstores, CVS and what's the other one? Walgreens. Okay. So Walmart, Amazon. So we're very comfortable with duopolies. Okay. But here's the problem. This right here is actually affecting us. So most duopolies are working to support blue collar working class. Okay. This is not that, right? So this is not that. This happens to be that they're going to split them, right? So they want to break the duopoly specifically on the swipe fees, because these two companies work together so closely. You guys know that they do stuff together. Like when an airline decides they're going to introduce a new fee, one will do it, and then the rest of them are sitting back watching to see what the market does. And if the market responds favorably within that month, the rest of them do it, because one of them always has to go into the water first to test the temperature of the water. And so, but that's the difficult thing. So that's what's going to happen here. They're really working to work to minimize those fees. But the other thing that is, well, you guys know, you're hearing about it every day in the news. President Trump has issued a mandate to credit card companies that they have to limit their interest rate to 10%. And here's what he's calling it's a 1 year temporary 10% interest freeze. Can't be higher than 10% for 1 year. And he gave the credit card companies to the end of the year. And the reason why he did it for 1 year and didn't make it permanent, because you guys understand most of these credit card companies are publicly traded. And you guys know publicly traded companies have their top responsibility is to their shareholders, which means their number one responsibility as an organization is to generate profit for those shareholders. We get that, right? Okay, so that's why this is so big, and that's why it's right now a 1 year temporary freeze on that. Because, and I'm just assuming here, obviously, I have no backdoor or bat phone into the White House, but here's what I'm assuming. President Trump is very good at testing with an idea and seeing how it hits with the public. He'll test and then evaluate, test, evaluate. And if he tests something and it's going good, he tends to make it permanent. Because I don't know if you know anything about this guy, but he likes to make people happy. Okay. He knows his base and he works really hard to make them happy. So my gut feeling is that if these publicly traded credit card companies, we start seeing big dips in their stock price, I feel like he will lift it to allow, but here's what that means for us. That means we got a year to pay off these darn credit cards before we start getting railroaded again. Okay, 10% on all your loans. You guys know that the like PayPal loans that you guys get always and all that stuff. And by the way, they're not bad. I think they charge like 15%. It's a flat rate, right? So it's not compounded. But still, can you guys just imagine if you borrowed money as a small business owner, it's always no more than 10%? Don't you think that that's going to immediately increase buying and lending and all this stuff, right? Because money's now cheaper for us. These are just huge stories for us as mom and pop venti shop owners, okay? What else is going on? Okay. Oh, back to taxes and saving. Okay. The OBBBA, otherwise known as the other ABBA, has retroactively restored 100% of the bonus depreciation for assets placed in service in 2025 and, of course, in 2026. This is huge because the end of last year, it wasn't retro. So we were talking about it, trying to make sure that we could get this thing in, and then they go ahead and retro it. Freaking fantastic. Okay, just fantastic, right? So, but obviously for us as business owners, why is it a big deal for us? It's like massive immediate cash for the owners who basically have to upgrade their shop, whether it's the interior, the equipment, whatever it is, the machinery, whatever. It just incentivizes us more to go spend money, which is what keeps this economy rolling, bro, right? We are the best economy on the planet of lighting money on fire, which is why we dominate planet Earth, right? The one who spends the most typically dominates the most. Just telling you how it works, okay? I'm not saying that when we had the free women movement back in the 60s and 70s, most of the protests we now realize are typically false flag operations designed to do something. And I'll tell you something, we basically within a very short few years grew the GDP huge because we put women back to work. Not back to work, we put women to work. I know in the 50s and stuff we did that, but it was like for war, but typically they still basically stayed home. But we freed them, men and women are equal, go work, you can earn the same thing. And by the way, there's no proof of any of this stuff, but you just look at it and you're like, it's just kind of weird. And so, but it's about incentive to have a, they're trying to accomplish something. And so they'll incentivize you for something. So anytime they do something like this, it's to incentivize you to do something, to go spend, which releases the money and keeps this economy flowing. The flow through, I just saw this on X yesterday. Money is not currency. It's a database. It's fungible. It's like matter. It can neither be created nor destroyed. It's weird. It's fungible. You always wonder how we don't have money for this, but we can send 100 billion a year. And somehow we just keep operating. I know we go in debt, but as the money flows, right, it's the trickle down economy, right? So it's a waterfall. So here's how the money flows, right? It's printed. And so it's actually reversed. So the basically the money typically flows into individuals' hands, but we know it when it flows down, it's a reverse pyramid, which means it ends up in big corp. So anytime quantitative easing is happening in the country, you can go back and look at the market. Every single time, Fortune companies, every single time. Why? Trickle down. So reverse pyramid. Individuals, small business, big co, Fortune, right here. Money flows down like a waterfall, back into their pockets. And they use that money and they give pay raises to their people. They raise prices on you. That's what we call inflation, right? Inflation is just going to the store and measuring a certain amount of items to see how that price adjusts. That is a very, very baseline elementary level explanation, but we're just measuring things at certain points to see what the price did, right? Okay. So anytime bonus depreciation gets restored, that's a big news for us. Big news for us. What else is in the news? This is a big story. So for bigger companies, there's something called the Section 174 tax code, and it's specifically dealing with amortization requirements that has been repealed for small business. So you can now deduct R&D, which is research and development costs, in the year that they occur. Okay. Why does this matter? If you are a local manufacturer or software developer, you no longer have to spread your development costs over the 5-year period that's been there for years. Now we can deduct it, right? This year, which what does it do? Frees up cash flow, right? You used to have to depreciate over 5 years, right? Now we can basically deduct it the year it occurs. This is fantastic for us. Business deductions. Huge for us, right? What else is going on in the news today? All right. Let's see. Okay. SBIC is due to reforms, which what it does, it's actually fueling private investment. So the SBA finalized reform to the Small Business Investment Company Program, SBIC, yesterday to push more private capital into, listen to me, Main Street industries. Main Street. Okay. What does that mean? When we know Main Street, we know Venti business is 1 to 20. Okay. 0 employees is just self-employed, to be honest with you. I know you think you're a business owner, but you don't understand the weight of a mom and pop Venti shop until you hire your very first employee and now you're responsible for their paycheck. That tends to be a huge wake-up call. It's kind of like when people are married and then they have a kid. The weight of responsibility on this new thing, which means it's more important than you. Okay. Children, employees have the same weight of responsibility. They come first. Right? So we're talking Main Street industry, which is 0 to 50. And the SBIC is pushing more private capital to Main Street industries. This is huge. And by the way, I don't know why I'm saying huge that way, but it's huge. Okay. So I want you guys to pay attention. This stuff is big news. And if you guys want some more big news, we need to talk about our peer advisory groups. What is a peer advisory group? You guys know I talk all the time about my Fokker Circle of Trust. Okay. If you guys ever saw Meet the Fokkers, the movie, and Gaylord Fokker, right? So there's the Circle of Trust. And it was the parents, right? The dad. He had the Circle of Trust. And so what that is a small circle of individuals that you trust their input for you. You trust their feedback. Okay. A peer advisory group is not a networking club. It's not a mastermind full of noise. No. It's a small group of 6 to 8 business owners. Think of it like your personal board of directors, right? Here's the deal. All of our PAGs, we start fresh PAGs every month. And so we're filling up our February PAGs right now. So for you guys, if you guys are interested and you're like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of not accomplishing my goals. I'm in January. Let's get this done. Okay. And our PAGs are 12-week sessions. Okay. So every 12 weeks, so all of our business owners that we onboard as clients automatically get assigned into PAGs. And you don't even have to be a customer of our accounting firm to join a PAG. Okay. There are 12-week sessions. You will get more done in 12 weeks than you have the last 2 years. Listen to me. Did you hear what I said? It's true. Because guess what? Listen, planning plus execution equals success. That's why you need accountability. And that's why you need to be in a peer advisory group and not a mastermind or not a networking group. Our PAGs, there is no networking. You come to the PAG with your goals over the next 12 weeks. And this team, call it your personal board of directors, is going to help you accomplish your goals. Did you hear me? Your goals. This is huge, guys. This is huge. Okay, so if you guys want more information about our PAGs, you can schedule a one-on-one with me directly, personally with me. Go to my personal scheduling website, speakwithaaron.com. Speak with Aaron. And by the way, it's Aaron, not ERIN. It's Aaron. Okay, speakwithaaron.com. It's my personal scheduling website. And if you have any questions or if you don't want to go do that, no problem. Go to businessforbreakfastradio.com. Submit a question, a dad joke, whatever you guys want to do, but just go in there and submit it. Okay. And we'll answer the questions or I'll respond to you guys directly. But that's how you can get in touch with us to kind of let us know. And by the way, if you guys don't mind, share some comments in below. I'm just now getting this thing off the ground. So I'm trying to every day kind of eat my own home cooking and try to improve the show 1% each day rather than doing huge things. I want to do like tiny little micro things. So if you're watching the show, you guys know every day I'm like adjusting the camera. You go to in the description, the YouTube thing, I'm modifying that. I'm working on the business. You guys get this. The reason why I talk about this, you guys getting 1% better today. We spend the majority of our time working in our business, but we have to be spending time every week working on our business. Hear me. Consistency, right? And routine. Okay. Routine is the key. Consistency will set you free. Okay. So it's very important that weekly you set aside time every week, 10% of your hours for working on your business, not in your business. Okay. That's the 1% improvement every day, right? Working on your business. That's what we're doing here every day, helping you mind your own business, right? So let's move into our next segment, shall we? And this one, I can't even tell you how flippity flip excited I am about this segment. You want to know why? Because it's a huge segment from my boy, Scott Adams. Okay. And you guys know there's my Scott Adams coffee mug. And you guys know that the entire world this week is mourning the loss of what I've called him for years, our modern day oracle. Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, has been relevant for decades. One of the most successful daily podcasts in YouTube history. The greatest minds on planet Earth were regular viewers of the show. He taught the brilliant ones. But when you listen to him, he's simple. And that's what makes him so dangerous. And so today, I want to cover something. I really want to help you guys. And this particular thing that I want to talk about for you guys is, in particular, it is regarding hold on a second, because I did the entire show. I did my note here. Hold on. Did I delete it? Which, by the way, I'm not saying that I did or did not do that. Oh, there it is. Good. Okay, good. All right, here we go. So what we're going to be focusing on today for Scott Adams was it was one of his whiteboard lessons, and it's from 5 years ago, episode 924. So my recommendation is I'm going to give you a kind of overview of a lesson that he taught for 40 minutes. Trust me, put it on 1.5 speed. All of his whiteboard lessons are game changers. Okay, so here was his lesson, and here's what we're going to talk about today. It was called the user interface for reality. Okay, so in this particular episode, Scott introduces what he calls the user interface for reality. So it's not mysticism or magic. It's not like cosplay, right? It's not like this fluffy stuff. It's really like practical. It's like a practical mental model for you to kind of understand why the world looks confusing to most people and why some people seem to see around the corners. Okay. Here's Scott's claim. Reality doesn't change much. Your interface for interpreting it does. Okay. So let me tell you this. If your mental interface is bad, how you view the world looks random, hostile, rigged. Okay. If your interface is good, patterns become obvious. This is pattern recognition, guys. That's all this is. Okay. Outcomes become predictable and your choices become more clear when you understand the user interface for reality. Okay. So here's the core ideas. The lens to look at the world is done through filters, not facts. Filters, not facts. Okay. Scott argues that people don't experience reality directly. They experience it through filters. These filters are learned lenses. Like back in the 1980s, we had like those 3D goggles that were like red and blue. Okay. Oh my gosh. Hold on a second. I just had an idea that I now have to make a note of. I'll be buying those. Buy 3D red, blue glasses. Lenses. Okay. Here's the deal. People don't experience reality directly. They experience it through filters. These filters are learned lenses. Each one highlights certain truths and hides others. Okay. So the more useful filters you have, the more accurate you can interpret events. This is the brilliance of Scott Adams. I issue a 30-day Scott Adams challenge every day. Go, not the last month because he's been intentionally preparing for passing away. I want you to pick any other 30-day period. Go back to, let's say, October of last year and just listen for 30 shows in a row. And by the way, they're about an hour long. And you're going to get the daily news, politics, economics without any of the propaganda. But you're going to learn critical thinking. You're going to persuasion skills. He's going to teach you how to predict. He's canary in the coal mine, all there. Put the show on 1.5 speed and watch 30 days. And after 30 days, tell me if you're changed and if your lens on reality changes. You can't not be changed when you are introduced to these concepts on a regular basis. And there's an army of individuals like myself who are now working to carry on Scott's legacy. Okay. And so I want to teach you guys what he's taught me over the years. And this is all Scott Adams, all of his books, everything is all him. Okay. But you have to think of it like this. One filter, remember, like the red lens, that equals blurry black and white screen. It's not clear. Okay. The other lens, many filters equals high resolution dashboard with overlays. So Scott estimates that fewer than 15 filters explains most of human behavior. Is that not crazy? 15. Okay. The major filters in the user interface. Number 1, persuasion. Understanding how people influence each other emotionally and psychologically is unbelievable. Why do you think when you pay attention to your news, whether it's left or right, okay, understand it's all designed for propaganda to get you to do what? Activate an emotion. You feel it. When you read a story, what do? You feel it. It activates a feeling. This is designed because that feeling releases dopamine, and dopamine is addictive. And now you know why. If the story is not outlandish, you don't click on it, right? That's persuasion, okay? It's not logic. It's not facts. It's about framing, repetition, incentives, and identity. Scott would always tell the story that he was from his mom would teach him at an early age. Scott, given enough time, people can get used to anything. And Scott would say, yeah, but I don't really believe that's true. And he was a huge believer. No. If something's repeated enough, you start believing it's real, even though it's not factual. Right? Because it's about the filter, right? So if you lack this filter, you think debates are about truth, and they are not about truth. It's about persuasion, right? Number 2, economics and business. So organizations behave according to incentives and budgets, not morals. Scott has been saying this for years. You can follow the money, right? So if you know what's going on in the news, you don't know anything. But if you know who's driving that news, you know everything. Okay, you have to know what's driving it. Scott gives examples. You're unlikely to get a speeding ticket at 6 a.m. on Sunday, right? Okay, why? Obviously, why? Not because the cops are nicer, because enforcement is expensive and the risk is low because you got to pay those cops more money, right? So here's the filter. This lets you predict behavior without needing inside information. And that is the reason why Scott Adams historically has been a canary in the coal mine and has been the best predictor of world events, even though he doesn't actually know specifically about the topic, because it's about the filter that allows you to predict the behavior without needing the inside information. That's what's happening here, okay? Let's talk about the next filter, which is statistics, okay? This is kind of that common sense level. This is not formulas, it's not judgment. We have to understand the false positives, okay? Base rates, the margin of error. These little things like that is what they use for propaganda, right? Could be true versus is proven, right? You think could be true reads the same as proven. They are not, right? So this filter lets you see past the headlines and avoid being emotionally manipulated by the studies that don't actually prove what they claim. This is what Scott always said. If you hear a story in the news that gives you a number or a statistic without the counter, it's propaganda, okay? Well, here's what I'm saying. If you're in the news, let me give you an example. This was just in the news yesterday that France is sending their troops over to Greenland, to support Denmark. And when you read the headline, they make it seem as though it's an army, thousands they're sending over there. But then you drop down in the paragraphs, they're sending like 20 soldiers. I'm not kidding, right? So remember, the percentage and the number is truth. If you get one of those two without the other, it's propaganda, right? This is all we're going to do is keep hammering this until you guys fully have the lens that allows you to see what's going on. And guess what happens? You suffer less. You suffer less, right? That's why this is so key. You guys get this, right? Okay, cool. What else? How about strategy? Okay, so seeing life as systems instead of goals. So this connects directly to Scott's earlier work, where he talks about systems beats goals, skill stacking beats talent skill stacking beats talent worship. And so what happens here is that with this particular filter, progress stops feeling random, okay? Systems beats goals. Routine is the key. Consistency will set you free. Scott would talk about, he built a system to help him start consistently working out. Here was his system. I'm going to drive myself to the gym, but I get to decide when I get to the gym if I'm going to go in and work out. But the system was, here's the routine. I'm going to go to the gym, and he's going to consistently go every day until it becomes habit, right? And then the system is just easy to maintain, but you're not building it. Now it's just maintenance, right? Make sense? So trust me, systems over goals is, for me, probably the biggest life change that I've done with everything, business. And you guys know that's the reason when we talk about the daily 1%. This is a system, not a goal. I don't want to be here by the end of the year. What I want to do is have a system where 1% improvement happens almost automatically, right? That's what we're building here, okay? Here's another lens, mating evolutionary psychology. Okay, so hear me. People do things to signal value, status, and desirability. So even when the individual, swears that they don't, we all do. Okay, so here's some filters. This filter will help you explain political posturing, social media behavior, moral grandstanding, risk-taking. Okay, So without this lens, human behavior seems insane, but with it, it's embarrassingly predictable. Okay. So Scott would say all the time, the reason why AI work will never have value is because he said art boils down to biology and mating. And so that's why partners pick individuals that are high value. And so when you have an artist that creates art, a musician, a business owner, whatever it is, this is mating, and this is evolutionary psychology. This stuff is like primal, because instinctively we're trying to encourage that when we procreate, that we've got a Darwinism, like survival of the fittest, like we've got a better chance of survival if we're picking high value partners, right? I mean, by the way, this is like logical. This is not even like something that you even have to go look up. This just makes sense. Okay, you guys get this. What's another filter? Abundance versus winner. So you've got abundance versus the winner loser mindset. Abundance, winner loser. Okay, so you have to understand, if your lens on planet Earth is that there is no lack, right? Everything is plentiful, right? So we don't have to compete, we just create, right? When you understand that scarcity, somebody has to lose for somebody to win. You've got to lose so I can win. That is just a wrong model. You know, Scott always talked about being useful. That is not useful, right? Or abundance, which is cooperation, which makes everybody wealthier, richer, more successful, right? For years, you guys know, I was in ministry for 10 years, and I pastored for most of those 10 years. And my senior pastor, Stephen, was probably the best example of the leadership that he taught me for the decade that I served underneath him was unbelievable. And one of the things that I always loved about Stephen was, in the town that the church was in, there was like a church on every corner, and it's like every month a new church was opening up. And he never stressed, ever, not once. And here's what he would say. He would go meet with the pastor and say, hey, let's work on saving this community. And here was his thing. He never dealt with a mindset of scarcity, like this is competition. His mindset, and this is brilliant, by the way, it takes all types of churches for all types of people. Let's work together for the greater good, right? Didn't that just feel good? Don't you just feel like a release, realizing there's no competition? When we have a customer that leaves us, I don't get upset. I don't deal with this fear, because I look at it and say, wait a minute, hold up, whoa. Because I have lived by one rule my entire adult life. If anything happens to me, good or bad, I ask myself one question. Is there anything I personally could have done to have kept that from happening? If the answer is yes, I know who to blame, or at least I'm partially to blame. I call it Novinger's law of radical responsibility. Okay. And I've done this my entire adult life. So if something happens, we lose a customer, the first thing I think is not who's to blame. Usually when that happens, there's typically a broken system or process, or no system or process at all. So my mindset is, let me fix that, how I ran the customer off, and I'll get them back. I'm not worried, because I'm not dealing with a scarcity mindset. This is a big filter for you guys. I hope that this is helping you guys see a new lens on reality. Okay. You get to create it by your lens. Okay. What's another filter? Scott calls it the moist robot. Okay. We know we hate that word, and that's why he uses it. So humans are not rational thinkers. They are emotional machines that justify decisions after the fact. Okay. This filter prevents you from expecting logic where none exists, very calmly, actually. Okay. So these are emotional machines that justify decisions after the fact. So here's what I'm saying. People make decisions based on emotion, and then try to reason it with logic. So they make decisions based on emotion, and then they try to reason it with logic. Okay. So we all do this, which is why when you hear somebody say, I did this, and then you hear the reason, and you're like, right, but that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, because X, Y, and Z also answers that. So there's obviously an emotional connection to this decision, right? Great filter. Filter number 8, victimhood filter. And this is probably the worst one. This right here, this is actually kryptonite for the individual. There's a reason it's last, because it's the kryptonite to you, okay? Because my gift and part of my talent stack is the ability within 10 minutes to see people's natural God-given gifts and talents, okay? And so I can see somebody's talent in 10 minutes, okay? But I can't predict their ego, which is how they identify to the world. If this individual has a victim mindset, that always trumps talent. Always. Your ego always trumps talent. Okay? That's why this is so freaking scary, because you're seeing yourself primarily as a victim in this story, how everything's happening. You're like, why? Why is this happening to me? Oh my gosh. Okay. But stop it. Stop it. That is not true. Okay. Every setback becomes proof. Every neutral event feels hostile. Okay. So Scott calls it damaging filter because it removes the personal agency. Okay. So seeing yourself as the victim, here's a couple reframes. Things don't happen to you, they happen for you. Things don't happen to you, they happen for you. I want to give you guys a small homework assignment. Go to YouTube and search for Jocko Willink Good. And if that doesn't change your mindset from being a victim to a conqueror, I don't know what will. Because it's teaching you to see everything that happens from the point of view of good. Because it's showing me something to work on, which is going to make me a better person or make our organization a better organization. It's good. Okay. So as soon as you remove the victim filter and you start practicing, because usually this is what happens. People, 99% of the time, you're causing your own victimhood. You're causing it. But your subconscious doesn't allow you to see your actions in the equation or in the movie. It's what everybody's doing to you, but what you're doing is blinded to you. Are you catching me? Is this resonating? Okay. Here's what I'm trying to teach you. If you will start practicing Novinger's law of radical responsibility, okay, so everything that happens to you, good or bad, ask yourself one question. Is there anything I can do to personally have kept this from happening? If the answer is yes, you know to blame, or at least you're partial to blame, which means what? You are now in charge of your destiny, because now you can make changes, tweaks, adjustments to make sure that doesn't happen again. The problem with victim mindset is as soon as you get out of it, you now have to take full responsibility. And that's a scary place for most of you guys, especially if you've lived your entire life blaming everybody. You're like, my business hasn't grown in 10 years because of this person, because of this, and because of this. No, 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 and no. Your business isn't growing because of you as the owner. Growth of an organization is always dwarfed by the ceiling of the owner. The owner is the one, and they are usually consciously are sabotaging their business, and they don't even know it. Most of the time it's subconscious. And a victim mindset is subconscious, and it is the most dangerous of all of them. Okay. This is big, big stuff. Okay. So what the user interface actually does. So when these 8 filters are combined, something interesting happens. The world, listen to me, looks less chaotic. Come on now. Am I going to get a woot woot? Outcomes feel less surprising. Choices feel more obvious. Manipulation becomes easier to spot. Stress decreases because confusion decreases. You guys have heard this saying a million times. A confused mind never buys. Because when there's turmoil, things don't feel right, right? Scott claims that this can feel almost godlike, not omnipotent, just less blind. Okay. So I really, really want you guys to kind of take a big takeaway. The user interface for reality is not about learning more facts. It's about learning how to interpret those facts. Okay. Most people argue about what happened. People with better interfaces ask what incentives caused it. That's the whole trick. Unfair, maybe, useful, absolutely. And no, debating someone without shared filters is pointless, okay? Because you understand, Scott talks about this all the time. It's two individuals who are watching one screen, but watching two different movies, okay? So it's not them versus you, it's their lens is different than your lens. Because you have to understand, you're not actually born with opinions. You guys get this, right? You're not born with opinions. Your opinions are assigned to you by the media that you pay attention to. You get this, right? Let me prove it to you. Because most of you guys are going to hear this and be like, that's BS. I'm calling BS. And I'm going to prove it to you right now. Okay. Let's say that you are somebody that leans left, like big time left. Okay. And let's be honest, for the last 10 years, you basically despise Mr. Orange Man. Okay. Just literally the second you start hearing the word, you start getting a sick stomach in your feeling. Okay. Now, but let's say that in 2015, you ended up working with, let's say, I'm going to create an organization called Doctors for Humanity. Okay. And let's say you're an RN. And then you basically go to Africa, and you've been in Africa for 10 years. But before you left, your favorite TV show was Celebrity Apprentice. Like before you left, loved Mr. Trump, loved him. And by the way, we loved him up till he was president, and we knew his faults. We knew the dude wasn't, that guy. Okay. He knew he was entertaining. Okay. But we liked him because we knew that he knew what we wanted, and he's really good at giving us what we want. Okay. And so let's say you come back from Africa, and it's been 10 years. You come back in, you're hanging out with everybody, and all of your really, really far leaning left friends, they're all in a room. Remember, you just got back, from, serving, the underserved in Africa for 10 years, totally disconnected from world news, totally disconnected. Okay. You come back, and every one of your friends is obsessed saying Orange Man bad, Orange Man Hitler, Orange Man this. You're like, wait, hold on. What are you saying? Like, this is kind of weird. Wait. I'm confused. Like, when I left 10 years ago, like, he was on Celebrity Apprentice. Like, we love the dude. Like, what the heck happened? You get it? Your opinions are assigned to you by what you pay attention to. So if all of your sources of news comes from legacy media, understand it's state-owned and state-controlled. It's not just America. It's every country. And by the way, it should be, right? A country should be in the business of propaganda, or basically brainwashing and using propaganda to help us be more loyal to our country. So it's not like propaganda or brainwashing is necessarily all bad, but just understand it's happening. So if you pay more attention to, let's say, all the independent journalists, your viewpoint is going to be different toward that man compared to if you're paying attention to legacy media. You get what I'm saying? Your opinions are assigned to you by what you pay attention to. Make sense? Okay. Hopefully this lesson really helped you guys. You guys are going to see it's going to be news, but it's also going to be tips and tricks to help you guys get 1% smarter today. And so with that, let's kind of, I guess, let me just see here. Oh, okay. Let's just finish it up, man. We've been on for over an hour. Excuse me. A great show. I told you it was going to be the best business for breakfast that you've ever seen. And I never disappoint, do I? I do not disappoint. Okay. So here we go. Not going to do a reframe today because we just did one of the whiteboard lessons from Mr. Adams. But if you guys have questions about today's show, you guys know that you can go to businessforbreakfastradio.com, submit a question, a dad joke, whatever you guys want. And I'll either reply back to you guys or answer it on the air. And if you guys actually want to talk to me about what we've talked about today, or if you want to talk about business, if you have an idea for a business, if you guys want to talk and just kind of strategize a little bit, you want to talk about accounting, bookkeeping, tax work, payroll, consulting, whatever it is. We've been doing small business accounting, payroll, and consulting since 1968. So we are not amateurs in this space. Okay, so and you guys know that we talk routinely throughout the show about our peer advisory groups. These are not masterminds or not networking groups. It's like your own personal board of directors. This group alone, we start them fresh each month with new we call them PAGs, peer advisory groups. It is free to you, even if you're not one of our customers. Okay. You don't have to be a customer to join, and it's free to everybody, because for us, we don't want any barriers of entry to you minding your own business. And this is going to help you guys mind your own business, having your own personal board of directors. Our PAGs meet every week, and we've got new ones opening up in February. So if this is something that's interesting to you, or you want to talk about business, schedule a call with us at speakwithaaron.com, and that's aaron.com. Or go to Business for Breakfast Radio, submit a question. I'll respond back to you or read it on the air. And guys, with that, that wraps up another episode of Business for Breakfast Radio. All right. And you guys know, whether it's hard or easy, whether you think it's hard or easy, you're right. Today, I want you guys to focus on being useful. Be useful. Okay. Think of your job today, especially if you're in the service industry, to help your customers suffer less. Stop focusing on the money and start focusing on what that's my definition of ministry, helping people suffer less. Okay. And one of these times I'll explain to you where that all came about. It's going to make a lot more sense to you. Be useful, help people suffer less. And you guys know what time it is, right? Ooh, it's time to get to work.